What's going on, guys? My name is Triforce Addiction. So, oh boy, this today is going to be a pretty controversial video because I actually wanted to give my take on the whole Nickmercs situation that happened last week with, I guess with Call of Duty, and just the fact that he had his bundle removed along with Tim the Tatman a little bit later down the line. So as you guys probably know, Tim the Tatman and Nickmercs are among one of the most viewed streamers in terms of Call of Duty, specifically with Warzone and Warzone 2.0. They're very famous. I mean, I've seen Nickmercs through his intros. They're kind of hilarious, and I even started learning about him more during the time that I guess 8 Thoughts was making fun of his thumbnails, and like this whole thing happened where he ended up getting canceled and everything for that. So yeah, I know a little bit about Nickmercs. So recently they both got their own bundles, Nickmercs and Tim the Tatman, where they have their own character skins. We have some collabs here in this game as well. The Kevin Durant. We also had the Saul, and we also had, I believe, Neymar and Messi. We've had a few different collaborations, but I mean this one was kind of different because we haven't had a YouTuber collaboration at all. And this is, talking about specifically the ones, the Call of Duty games on console. Obviously in COD Mobile, we've had Ferg, Bobby Plays, as well as Hawk's Nest. The way it was done here, it went pretty smoothly. I mean, none of the YouTubers got in any trouble, and obviously not, because there's really no reason for them to even be in trouble anyways. But Nickmercs decided to leave a response or a tweet on some other tweet that was talking about some fight that happened at a school nearby, pertaining to a lot of LGBT issues, whether or not they want to, have the kids learn it. And of course, Nickmercs said, since he is a father, that he wouldn't want his own kid to be learning it, and just basically saying, just stay away from the kids. This is something that, like, a lot of people have touched on in the past with different, obviously for different reasons, because sometimes there are parents out there that are worried that kids are not learning the actual subjects that they need to learn, but instead they're learning sexualities or different genders, like in their own classes, which is kind of weird. It's just that they're being fed a lot of information that they don't really need to know at that current time in their life. I mean, most kids in elementary school are what, like 5 to like 11 years old, based on what grade they're in. So yeah, they don't really have to be learning about sexuality at at such an early age. At some point they are going to learn it, and they are going to understand it or tolerate it. It's just that there's more important subjects to discuss rather than just like, oh, hey class, look at my new gender, or oh, guess who I'm dating this week, or whatever. I mean, like, shit like that is just, it doesn't need to be there. And Nickmercs had a very good point to say that. But given that it's Pride Month, Activision wasn't having it, so they basically removed his bundle from the Modern Warfare 2 bundle store, and that's basically where the whole controversy kind of like started. And how Nickmercs handled it couldn't have been handled any better, because he did discuss it on the stream, and he said he was going to stand by that statement, and if they want to remove the bundle, he's okay with it. And yeah, I mean, he basically didn't apologize at all. I mean, honestly, he didn't really need to apologize. I'm sure he's very tolerant in, LGBT stuff, but he just didn't want his kids learning about it, at such a very early age. That's it. And again, it's not an uncommon thing to hear. I mean, most parents, even now, probably wouldn't want that to happen. So obviously, the LGBT trolls from Twitter decided to give their 2 cents, saying that he was homophobic and everything. And yeah, you know how it is. If you say anything that's like anti wokeness, you're pretty much gonna like suffer the consequences for it. They say that they're very, accepting of other opinions, but that's never really the case. And honestly, that's the reason why Pride Month isn't really being taken seriously this year. There's a lot of fear mongering that happens where, you say anything, like any opinion, like that is against like LGBTQ ideals, and like suddenly it's like, oh, you're worse than Hitler. It's like, even if it's like the most like genuine criticism, like, oh, I don't want you to teach my kids this stuff until later on down the line, like the way that they interpret that is so stupid. They immediately assume, oh, you just want a whole LGBT genocide or some stupid shit like that. They usually take it to the extreme like that for whatever reason. I mean, like, even I disagree with certain things that are LGBT related. Does that mean I want them all dead? No. But like, that's how they think, and or like that's how they want people to think. And right there, that's like a basically a critical reason as to why the LGBT, especially now, is not really taken seriously, especially not after what happened throughout 2023 and 2022. I'll explain my perspective in a few seconds, but let's be honest, like no one really cares if you're LGBT. I mean, like if you're gay, if you're bi, if you're non-binary or even trans, no one really cares. I mean, there are some, nuanced, topics to discuss on that, but for the most part, no one really cares. But they're making it seem like people are just walking around saying the F slur to every LGBT person they see. And that's something I hear from the movement side a lot because, yeah, they say, oh, there's all this violence going around, but like most of the violence that I've seen is them actually hitting other people. There was one that I actually saw on Twitter where this trans woman basically just went into a convenience store with an axe and literally hit this random dude in the face for no reason. I don't know if there was actually a reason, but it was never really explained why. And the crazy thing is that the guy wasn't even looking at her direction. So it's like why did that have to happen? And even when you see the rallies on LGBT versus anti-LGBT, it's the LGBT side that's more violent than the anti-LGBT side. And look, I'm not going to say that people of LGBT background don't go through violence. I'm sure there's a lot of, that stuff happening around, the world. But I think they're kind of over-exaggerating it a bit because, I'm seeing them actually causing pain to other people rather than them being the one that's, going through the pain. And again, like I said, now, talking about my perspective on this whole situation, it's like the LGBT movement. Like, I'm not going to say that I'm against anyone that's LGBT. Like, I don't really care, like, what your orientation or what your gender is. But I just don't really like how they're handling things at every situation where they could have handled it a lot more in a civilized manner. Like I said, if you say anything critical about them, even if it's in the most genuine and nicest way possible, they're going to ruin your life. That's basically how it goes. So, in my personal opinion, I think the way that they act, how radicalized they are, and how, I guess, sometimes violent that they could be towards people, specifically white people. Like, for some reason, they just love to pick on white people, like, if they're the only ones that have, like, any sort of critical opinions towards LGBT. Like, dude, they really, really hate white people for some reason. And specifically the cis, straight white males. For some reason, I guess, like, white females are excluded from that for some reason. But, yeah, like, they just hate white people, like, I don't know. Like, I really don't know why they do. There was even a guy, like a YouTuber, discussing, like, the rising hatred of white people. I mean, you guys probably should see that video. Like, you probably just search it up and you will find it immediately. But the point is that they're very hostile. Like, they basically force you to accept them, even though, let's be honest, most people already do. They force you to accept them, or else you have to pay the consequences. That's basically how it goes. So people don't really like that idea because, they kind of have too much power. If anything, they're probably one of the most protected classes in the U.S. They do this thing where they cry that they're oppressed, but yet they literally have a whole month dedicated to them. I mean, like, dude, veterans only have like 2 days dedicated to them. One is Memorial Day and the other one is Veterans Day, and that's literally it. So yeah, apparently they are so oppressed to the point where, like, they think everyone wants to see a genocide full of them. I don't know. Like, they always do that stuff every time. They always fearmonger, but like, if I'm going to be honest, based on what has happened so far this year, like, since no one has the balls to say it, I will. Let's be honest, the LGBT did not fucking deserve a Pride Month this year. Not based on the fact that they're, LGBT, but it's just the fact of how they were just, I guess, behaving throughout the entire year. I mean, especially during the Tennessee shooting. When that happened, where, like, I guess this Christian school got shut up with, like, a bunch of kids and teachers that died, and they were literally justifying it simply because it was a Christian school. It's like, how do you want people to react to that? Like, how can you expect people to follow you after that fucking stunt? Like, I could mention the Dylan Mulvaney thing with Bud Light, but that's not really much of a major offense. But I mean, dude, the whole Tennessee shooting, That was a huge one, and that's when I realized, like, dude, these dudes do not deserve a fucking Pride Month. They cared more about the fact that people were misgendering the shooter more than the kids that actually died in that shooting. And then they started releasing shirts like this, trans rights or else, you know, basically saying you better approve of us being trans or we're gonna fucking kill you. And this is, keep in mind, this happened after the shooting. So it's proof that they did not fucking care who died in that entire thing. And again, they didn't care because, of course, they were of Christian background. And of course, most of the kids there were probably white. So it doesn't fucking matter. It was almost like they were cheering that it happened. Like, dude. And I'm not going to say, and look, I'm not going to say that every person of LGBT background was like praising this. I'm sure like a lot of people were condemning that woman's actions, but still, I mean, there was quite a bit of people that were glad that it happened. Like it's messed up. And I think that's kind of like the worst part about the whole LGBT thing, because like all the radical ones are just making all the normal ones just, you know, look like shit. And I know, like, you know, just there are a lot of, you know, people that are gay or whatever that like that are just simply living their lives and not, you know, causing any problems to anyone. But it's just like this little minority of those that are just causing so much chaos to the point where it just makes their whole movement look bad. And that's quite a shame because, you know, the more and more the more the years progress, like the more people start taking the you know, LGBT like less seriously. And I understand why. I mean, there's just so much craziness that's happening, and I'm not the only one. I mean, if you go on Twitter, like on the Clown World Twitter page, or even the End Wokeness one, dude, there are millions of followers that basically agree with what they're saying. It's not just me saying this. So again, I don't really care what they identify as or who they like or, you know, who's in their bed or whatever. But it's just how they handle things. It's just that's the only problem. And as it goes for Activision and the whole Pride Month thing there, I mean, dude, let's be honest. They've been celebrating Pride Month for the entire year. I mean, for fuck's sake, they have like all the different pride flags in Modern Warfare 2. Like without the American flag, I don't even think there's still an American flag calling card. The only American flag in that game is basically the one in the embassy map that's on fire. A lot of people discuss that topic, but of course it got just brushed off like every single trend. But you guys get the point. I mean, it's so weird. And plus, you know, coming from Activision, like really, like are they really going to take the moral high ground after like all the shit that was discovered of how they treat the female employees over there? Their morality is like just all over the place. You know, they say they go for inclusivity, but then again, like they literally harassed women in their offices. I think one like ended up taking her own life. Like, dude, like who are you to judge? So at the end of the day, like Nickmercs, like he didn't deserve that happening to him. And, you know, I'm glad that Tim the Tatman stood up for him and said, you know, told Activision to basically remove his bundle as well. So no, those creator bundles are there anymore. But I think the ones who, I guess for the people that bought them, they still get to keep the skins and everything. It's just you can't buy it from here on out. So yeah, that's basically my whole take on the situation. And like, again, I don't care if you're, you know, gay or bisexual or whatever gender you identify as. Like, you just need to, like, you guys need to control your anger. Like, that's all I'm saying. Like, that's really all I'm saying. If someone has a different opinion about it, like, that doesn't mean they want to hurt you. They just have a different opinion. That's it. But yeah, like I said, I mean, people just need to be more civilized on either side. It doesn't matter. It's like this, like, you know, stuff like this is just going to divide people even further. It's not helping, you know, the US. And given that how it is as a society right now, not really the best, and it could probably do better. That's all I'm saying. So yeah, anyways, have a wonderful day, guys, and I'll see you guys next time.